Hey everyone, and welcome to the policy process. Today I'm just going to cover an introduction and syllabus. This will be an intro week to the course, and I'll also post instructions through Canvas to help you all get started. So just a quick introduction to who I am and why I'm teaching this course. Professionally, I've been a data scientist for several years now. I started at an organization called the Greater Louisville Project, which was nonprofit sort of civic data analysis for Louisville, which is where I live currently and have lived for the past decade or so. And then I was a data scientist and briefly also a manager at the company that owns Jack Daniel's, Woodford Reserve, and a few other brands. And now I work at Meta, working in cross-Meta integrity. So a big part of my job is essentially to evaluate how much bad stuff is on the platforms and what steps we can take to remove it or reduce the prevalence of content and behaviors and just really anything that breaks the site's integrity and makes it not the kind of site that Meta wants it to be. Educationally, though, that's the background that is perhaps more relevant to this class. I started out in philosophy at Center, and then I went to the University of Kentucky and got both an MPP and a PhD in policy, including taking this same class, policy process, when I started my degree at the University of Kentucky. And I've now taught this several times. I do this because I enjoy teaching classes. My day job is very different, but I've always been interested in the academic route and in the experience of getting to talk about fun issues and policy with a bunch of really bright people, whether that's in person or online. So syllabus for this class, we can't really cover everything in one class, so there's really going to be 5 things. And the first 4 are the biggest chunk of the class. So each of these 4 involves a book, but we're going to focus first on the role of evidence in the policy process. So the policy process course, to be clear, this isn't a legal perspective on exactly how a bill becomes a law. This is a question of why do we get policy X instead of policy Y? Or why does one party prioritize a certain issue over another issue? Why did Obama prioritize healthcare over immigration? Stuff like that, right? And so for one of our questions is, what does evidence have to do with it? And for this, the book we'll be using is mostly just about recognizing high quality evidence and also recognizing low quality or places where evidence is entirely absent. It's called calling bullshit. But I'll also be talking through some of the videos and discussion questions about not just how to recognize evidence and good evidence, but what role that actually plays and what policy gets passed. If it plays any role at all, right? I recognize sometimes it can seem like policy is somewhat evidence-free and that what gets passed has no relationship to what we think should get passed. But this is not always the case. Evidence does play at least some role in at least some policy, and we're going to discuss when it plays a role and when it doesn't. We're going to talk about polarization. And here we're going to really look at an institutional perspective of what is it about the way U.S. institutions in particular are set up that leads to polarization. We're going to talk about race. Almost every policy in the U.S. has some sort of component that we can trace back and we can look at the history of it or the present of it, really, in terms of if you ask why U.S. policy is this way instead of that way, much of the time you'll find that race has something to do with it, and similarly for class. And all of these books that I'm assigned are books that I personally enjoyed reading, and they're also relatively recent books, and they're designed to be engaging. These are not traditional textbooks. These are books that for the most part previous students have enjoyed, so hopefully you all will enjoy them as well. I realize also that that's a lot of reading for this class, for books, even if they're not textbooks. That said, part of the trade-off in having a fully online class is that there's going to be additional reading and writing and much less time in lecture. The intro video, of course, is going to be relatively short, but even beyond that, the videos are not going to be 2.5 hour lectures that you're expected to keep up with, and there's no 2.5 hour class block. But there is more reading, and then there are some papers to write that we'll talk about. And then I'm also going to talk about some theories of the policy process, some of the traditional frameworks by which they've been analyzed in the past through political science. Okay, assignments are due on the week that they're listed. I'm considering Sunday at midnight the end of the week. I used to make assignments due on Friday, but students by far preferred having the assignment over the weekend and making it due at the end of the weekend rather than like having it due at the end of the week and then having free weekends. Totally sympathize with that. Most of your grading that I do will also be done on the weekend because, like many of you, I have a different job during the week, right? So my hours for this class are entirely outside of the traditional 9 to 5, during which I work my 9 to 5 data science job, right? I already mentioned the class is entirely asynchronous. 2.5-hour lectures on Zoom just do not work. And so the trade-off here is that asynchronous communication is largely written and then read. And so there will be a lot of both of those things in this class. I plan to do the discussions via chat on Canvas because I think it will be nice to have everything in one place on Canvas. I don't know how well the chat feature will work there. In the past, I've actually used Slack. And if there's a preference or if chat just really doesn't work very well on Canvas, then maybe we'll switch to Slack or Discord. But Canvas will be the main hub for all announcements and everything else going on in this course because I know that's what you use for all of your other classes as well, and therefore it's convenient to have everything in one place. Okay, I already mentioned 4 books required for the class, and videos are going to be posted on Canvas, and then I'm also going to post on YouTube. Part of that is just it's an easy way to provide captions for all of the videos, and it's a relatively easy upload mechanism that we can just link to quickly. The videos, though, are not going to be like summaries of the reading. These are books, but there's also a ton of like relevant articles and other information and other books that I can't assign because it's an intro level course, but that I want you to know something about and that we're going to talk about. So the videos are there to add additional background for material that wasn't assigned, and I'll relate it into what you're reading at the time, but it won't just be a straight summary of what you're reading by any means. Okay, assignments and grading. So class participation, and this is mostly discussion and discussion questions, 15% of your grade. Each of those first 4 sections that I talked about, so evidence, polarization, race, and class, there will be 1 paper on each of them that at the time is 15% each. So 60% for all of these shorter papers, 3 to 5 pages. See the syllabus for more details. And then the final paper will actually involve putting all of them together. All of these papers will be reflecting on a policy that you choose, like immigration, public health, climate change, etc. Although ideally, I'm giving very broad categories. Ideally, your paper will narrow to an aspect within each of those types of categories. Not each, but one of those types of categories, right? Okay. So those are the assignments. I will, of course, be happy to answer any questions. You can contact me through Canvas or through email. And of course, also read through the syllabus, which has the details of what you need to know and what all the due dates are for the class. Thanks all, and looking forward to a great semester.